everyone. We are talking to Kruti Lalan today. She has graduated in psychology from the University of Mumbai. She has done masters in French from University of Mumbai, and she has also studied Spanish. She specializes in teaching foreign languages. She is the founder director of the Language Legacy. She is also a poet, translator, and book reviewer. She writes insightful articles about language learning. She speaks English, Hindi, Gujarati, Marathi, French, Spanish, and the Kutchi dialect. Let us talk to her and understand her passion for languages. Hi, Kruti.
Hello, thank you so much for having me here.
Welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I would like to start by asking you about your passion for French and Spanish. How did it all begin?
So actually, I think the passion for languages started from my passion for books. So as far as I remember in my childhood, the only hobby that I had was reading. I used to not like sports. I used to not go out and play. I used to just be into the books. And because for me, it was like the more languages I knew, the more books I could access, the more books I could read. So that
Right.
is where my passion for languages started. So I started off with Hindi in school because we had Hindi and Marathi compulsory. So I started on, reading a little bit of literature from there. And then as I grew up, and then after my 10th, I picked up French because I had that as a subject in my college. And I just fell in love with the literature. And I remember in one of the storybooks that I was reading very young, I had a story of Maupassant. And that story really stuck with me. And I was like, when I grow up, I'm going to read it in its original language. And fortunate, after a lot of years, actually, I was able to read it in its original language. So that's how
Oh,
all the passion for languages started.
that's really interesting. Kruti, what inspired you to take up teaching?
So my dad is a teacher, and
Oh,
I have seen him throughout my years. I have seen him do this, and I've seen him love this. So I feel that is where I understood the nobility of this profession. And also, whenever we used to go out, his students used to come, and even today. I think it's been it's been over 35 years that he's been teaching. And even today, I get messages from people, like, how is sir? How is he doing? They still remember things about him that happened so many decades ago. But I think that is something that really motivated me to take a career where I could make a difference, and I could work on my terms as well. So it was a win-win for me, working on my terms plus being able to do something that people would remember for a long time.
wow, nice. How does your graduation in psychology help you while teaching?
A lot actually, because it
Mhm.
helped me in learning first, in learning the language. So because when I did psychology, we used to learn how memory works. We used to learn, how many hours should you study, when should you study, how should you divide your study so that it gives you the best results. So that psychology helped me understand the study patterns better, and I can apply the same when I'm teaching someone else. So I suggest them that this is how you're supposed to study, or you should take breaks, you should study before sleeping. It really helps consolidate all the information. So that is how psychology helped me in learning as well as teaching the language. Plus, I generally do one-on-one sessions. So what that does is, with the help of psychology, it helps me understand the psyche of a particular student. Like, what works with them better, and do we go ahead with visual kind of learning? Do we go ahead with auditory learning? Are they more of, writing and learning? So also learning different kinds of learning techniques during my psychology helped me adapt the same when I teach now today.
Oh, wow. So, what teaching methods or strategies do you find most effective while teaching foreign languages?
One such, I really find contextualizing the information, the vocabulary,
Okay.
and also explaining them in an Indian language. So,
Okay.
if I had to give an example to you, whenever we are doing French pronunciation, I ask my students to take notes in Devanagari.
Oh, is
Now,
it? Okay.
yeah, because English does not have the same phonetics, but Indian languages do. So whether it's Marathi, whether it's Gujarati, or it's Hindi, these are the three languages that I know how to speak. So if the student is also comfortable with that, I ask them to take notes of pronunciation in Devanagari. So that makes them quite independent after a while, because once the notes are ready, they can study by themselves. They don't have to rely on either Google or on my pronunciations as well. They are very self-sufficient in that sense. So that is one, one strategy that I really like to use while teaching languages. Another strategy that I really love and that I used when I was learning Spanish was to start talking to oneself in that language. It sounds very bizarre, it sounds very weird, I understand at the beginning, but when you're talking to yourself in any language or any target language, you're the most honest at that point. Like, there is no barrier, or you're not trying to impress anyone or anything. You're just bare out there. So this really helps you understand where you stand. Plus, because you talk to yourself about so many things, you realize, okay, I know these words, I don't know these words, this vocabulary is strong, this vocabulary is not, or, I am comfortable with this. So this really helps me also when I study now. And this is some strategy that I use for students as well when I ask them to go ahead with the languages.
Okay, this is really important. You are addressing to various syllabi of various boards. So
Correct.
how do you, make sure, or how do you study these syllabus?
Okay, so I cater to most of the curriculums that exist, including the IGCSE, SSC, CBSE, etc. So, having studied in SSC, it gives me a brief understanding of how the system was when I was studying. So that makes it really easy. Similarly, IGCSE pattern is very similar to what DELF pattern or DELE pattern is. So, DELF and DELE are the international exams that you give for French and Spanish, respectively. So the pattern is very, very similar. So it helps me integrate the same strategies that I use for those students here. So that helps me keep these two separate. As far as CBSE, ICSE are concerned, their curriculum is very straightforward. Whatever measures suggested by the education board are also very straightforward. So once you go through them, and once you go through a few past papers also, you understand the pattern that they are looking for and the kind of competency that they're looking for in the student. So it becomes easy to integrate that kind of learning and that kind of teaching when I teach that particular group of people.
Okay, nice. Can you share any memorable teaching experiences?
There are many, but I remember one specific where I was teaching this particular girl, and she used to absolutely not like English. And she would just cry every time there was a teacher there, and she used to just run away. So this time her mom decided that she would drop her at my house. That way, at least she'll be forced to, sit for an hour, and then she would see how it goes about. So I started off with talking, she was just like 5 or 6, so really not that old, but they do have a very higher expectation of language from there. So I was sitting with her, I was talking to her, and, I made her do some reading, some writing. We spoke a lot about what she likes, her favorite stories. And in similar way, she did a creative writing. So basically, we imagined a fairy tale, and I asked her what would she do if she was in that place.
Wow.
So it was so much fun for me, for her. And then when she went back home, the first thing that her mom does was text me that she's really looking forward to come back to class tomorrow, even though we did not have a class the next day. But she was really eager for that. So I think that is the moment where I felt that, yes, I'm doing something right. And I'm on a good path of teaching.
How do you stay updated on developments and best practices in education?
So attending a lot of workshops or seminars that are being provided. Also, we have a lot of material available online, whether it is recorded webinars, recorded seminars, or even free courses that are available for teachers in English, French, Spanish, all the 3 languages. So once in a month, I evaluate all of these. I go through a few of those websites and I check if there's any new development that I should know, or I keep on a tab on the social media of these particular, like there is any textbook company that is there, or if there's the official education board of that particular country. So that really gives me any insight if they have introduced something new for teachers, or if they are sharing something insightful for the teacher. So that helps me keep in touch with it on a regular basis.
Okay. You're a translator as well. So which domains of translation particularly interest you?
I really like literary translation because it is definitely difficult, because we have to understand the text first and then try not to take away the essence from the original text. But I love literary translation the most because it makes me feel like a writer for a while. So it's like vicariously, I'm living my dream of being a writer, and just through the mode of translation. But that is something that I really like. I love translating poems also, but I just do them for my own passion. I don't do it officially, because translating poems are really difficult, because a lot of cultural context is involved and a lot of historical context is involved in that. So
Right.
I prefer doing only prose and stories, short stories, and such.
Okay, that's nice. Talking about poetry, what
Yeah.
inspired you to start writing poetry?
I would say again my father, because he used to write poetry when he was young, and I accidentally found his diary, his journal kind of thing, where he used to write poetry in Gujarati. So my
Okay.
dad, yeah, and he used to read a lot of poems and he used to write in Gujarati. So I understood the power that words hold when I read something that he had written. Like just imagine being sitting here physically, but mentally you're someplace else. So that
Okay.
is what I felt when I read what my father had written. And that incited in me that, I also want to create something that would make people go somewhere else by not moving physically. So
Oh, okay.
transporting them to another state, transporting them to another entire state of being is what really inspired me to take up poetry.
Kruti, you read a lot. So this question, what poets or writers have influenced your work the most and why?
Um, Difficult to say for poets, because I have read very few of them and I have read very haphazardly. I do remember being influenced by Kabir ke Dohe when I was young. So in school, for an entire grade, we had Kabir ke Dohe as the literature part in Hindi, and I was really influenced by the rhythm that it created, by the play of words that it created. So that is one thing that I still carry with me today. I remember vividly the tone, the rhythm that Kabir uses for the Dohe. So that is for poet. For writing, a lot of writers have, left a little mark. But I do like Murakami's writing. I love how I feel when I'm reading it. And that is somewhere I want to reach. Like I want people to feel that when I write something. So you can say that it's kind of like an inspiration. He's an inspiration for me to reach that kind of writing. I also like in Indian authors, I also like Amish a lot. And I what I love about his writing, his is narrative. So he takes mythologies that are there. We all know about them. We've grew we've grown up, maybe our grandparents telling us, or maybe just otherwise knowing. But his
Yeah.
retelling of those narratives, it's something that would just click in you something, and then you can't leave his book till you are done, till the entire series is over. So I think Amish also has a great influence on how I want my writing to be viewed as.
Oh, nice. How did you get started as a book reviewer?
Again, book reviewer was I just my when I was in college, I used to read a lot. So like you would never find me without a book in my bag. Even today, if I am traveling somewhere, I will have at least a physical copy. Even though I have like n number of PDFs or n number of EPUBs on my Kindle, you would still find me with a physical copy. So when I was in college, somebody just asked me like, oh, the book you were reading yesterday, can you tell me how it was? Like I want to read it. So I was just giving the review, like, oh, this is this, and this is what you would like about it. And this person just said that, oh, but you should write reviews. You do a really good job of it. And now I'm curious to read the book, but you've not spoiled it for me. So that person, thanks to that person, I started putting it in the reviews, and it also gives me a chance to talk about my favorite books.
Correct. Great.
Yeah.
What criteria do you use to evaluate and critique books?
Honestly, there are three major criteria that I choose for how a book has to be evaluated. Number one is, does it create that emotion or feeling in the reader that it has intended? So how does the book read? So when I'm reading, am I feeling the same things that the words are created for, or am I feeling a disconnect from the book? That is the first thing that I look at. Number two are the different kinds of themes, or as you know, the popular word for it is tropes. So tropes are like, what kind of themes are being covered in this particular book. So like, is it about female friendships? Is it about romance trope? Is it about friends turned to enemies? So that is also one such aspect that really influences the kind of books I like to evaluate or I like to read. The third aspect for me is the author. So I read a little bit about the author before I start reading a book, because it just helps me place the book better. So I had read a book called I Am David. I Am David is a book about a small boy who's in concentration camp, and he's trying to find his way out and he's trying to find his mother. So that book, the storyline is very basic. So when I picked it up, I was not really sure if I would like it. But when I read a little bit about the author, I understood where she's coming from. I understood that originally this book is not written in that language. It's written in another language. So it's the translation that I'm holding. So there were times when there were gaps in, the narration, but I understood because it was translation that caused it. There are just some emotions or words you can't translate from one language to another. So this three things really help me read, because then I am able to relate to the book better than otherwise.
Okay. How do you stay updated on new releases and trends in the literary world?
So I do have a book, how do I put it? I do have a Bookstagram, if that makes sense. So Bookstagrams are basically Instagram accounts that are dedicated solely to books. And I do have a Bookstagram, and I've recently released a book club that I want to transform into a physical space for people to come and, like-minded people to come talk over a cup of coffee or a tea. So that is how I stay updated.
What do you believe makes a book memorable or impactful?
Many things, but I feel one thing are the words. There are these, there are just some catchphrases, there are just some lines in each book that really hit you. Like, doesn't matter what the situation, but there are just few things that stay with you. And I think that is what makes a book really memorable. That for someone like me who reads a lot, I end up forgetting what a book was about in, like, let's say a month, because I've already read like 7-8 books in the meantime after that. But there are just some things, some lines about that book that just stick to you. And that's what really makes a book memorable for a reader like me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you plan to author a book yourself?
I do. I definitely do. That's one of the things in my bucket list since I was a child, that I want to write a book of my own, maybe co-author it, maybe just do it myself. But that's definitely on the top of my list.
Fantastic. All the best for that.
Thank you.
And which other languages do you plan to learn?
I definitely plan to learn Italian, because Italian is very similar to French and Spanish. So I was recently watching some series in Italian, and I was able to understand the whole of it without translating. Like, I understood globally what it meant. And with the subtitles, it was more of a help, because there's a lot of influence of Spanish, there's a lot of influence of French. And sometimes you just make out like, okay, this is what they're trying to say from the context. So I would definitely want to take up Italian the next.
Wow, great. It was lovely talking to you.
Thank you so much. It was so great to be here and being able to share something about my passion to people who are similar to me. And, just being able to talk about books brings a very wide smile on my face, as you would have observed throughout. I smile the wide when I'm thinking about books or reading books. So that's something a lot. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about it.
You're welcome. And you have a good day, and I wish you all the best for your future projects.
Thank you so much. Wishing you a good day too.
Thank you, Kruti. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.